Hey guys, this is Domination from Team RECsurrection. Today I'm going to be bringing you a deck profile that I've been wanting to do for a really long time now actually. And as you can tell by this really awesome mat here, it's going to be Dragunity's. I've been playing this deck for a really long time, ever since it first came out with the Dragons, when Dragunity came out in that structure deck way back then. And now that it's finally, competitive in the meta again, I'm really excited. So let's start off. I run, very standard 3 ducks, 3 phalanx. There's 1 legionnaire and 1 Acklys. I really wanted to run 2 legionnaire, but I really couldn't find the space for it. And when I ended up dropping 1, I never really missed it. So it's fine the way it is, just 1. 2 Mistleton. It's very important for getting off the Atom loop. 2 Tempest. Post Tachyon Galaxy, this card really made the deck. It does a lot. It searches out Mistleton, which before you couldn't do, since Dragunity can't search out things that high of level. In fact, with Tempest, a lot of times you find that you don't really even need Dragunity because it does so much on its own to get stuff into the graveyard. There's 1 Zephyros. Again, a very important part of the Atom loop. And there's 1 Garuda. This card actually does a lot. I know some people don't like it, but in my opinion it's extremely useful. It counts as another Dogs, it could be another Garuda, it could be a way to force off the Tempest effect. All in all, I think it's, really great. And 1 Red Eyes, for Atom. Now for the spells, I have 3 Dragon Ravine, 3 Terraforming. I wanted to try dropping it down to 2 so I could fit some more stuff in, but it really didn't work very well. I started finding it hard to draw into Terraforming or Ravine, which sounds weird because you have 6 of them, but I guess it's just how it's working for me. And 3 Gold Sarks. This one's the force off the Tempest plays. It works really well in my opinion. At 3. Unlike Pot of Duel, you can activate more than 1, so they never really get too cloggy if you draw more than 1 in a hand. 2 Forbidden Lance and 2 MSTs. This is starting to become like a routine for all my decks where I run 2 of each. I think it hits a lot of things. It gives you a lot of protection. So I'll probably always stick to that. Those 2. And the standard Monster Reborn, Heavy Storm, Book of Moon. Running 2 cards of Consonance. This card, it's like I'm starting to find that you actually don't even need this card as much anymore because everything gets sent to the graveyard. You hardly ever have anything left in your hand to, pitch for cards of Consonance. I mean, it's great to have, a draw too, but yeah. It kind of really only works if you already have everything you need set up, but again, you can't ever argue with drawing 2 cards and 1 Pot of Avarice. You do run through resources pretty quickly, so it's good to be able to put them back. If you draw more than 1 Gold Sark, a lot of times I'll search out Pot of Avarice with the second one. For the traps, I have 2 Breakthrough Skill. I thought about running 3, but instead I felt like if you set it, it doesn't really stop your opponent from killing you. So I had to fit in other cards instead. But Breakthrough Skill is great. It's like 2 Veilers, and you can also pitch it for Ravine, and it still works. And that's why I like it a lot. I wish I could run it at 3. Probably would have had the space. And I have 2 Compulse. This card really does a lot. This format, it can bounce a Draco Sack even when it has tokens. It really does stop like the dragons. When they get 2 7s out, you can just bounce 1 back and that'll be it for them. And lastly I have the 2 Solemns. Now onto the extra deck. I have the Atom, Photon Strike Bouncer, Gaia Dragon, those are all pretty standard. And I have Ice Beast Zerifying, which is a newer edition. This card can negate all the cards on the field and gains 200 attack for each one that gets negated. I think in my opinion this card is amazing if you're in a bind where there are multiple cards on the field that are locking you down. And then there's 2 Stardust, 1 Red Dragon Archfiend. This card is actually becoming very useful. It it's used to kill the tokens that come out from Dracossack, and in addition, since it's a dark, it can be used with Eradicator Epidemic Virus, which is good for hitting the spell books. I have Scrap Dragon, Colossal Fighter. It's also a dark, so you can use it with Eradicator, and it has a useful effect of coming back. If you're running exams or something along the line, some rogue deck. Crimson Blader. This card is very, very important in this format. It really just shuts down the dragons a lot. And Mermails are still out there, so it stops them too. I have to say, every time this card is on screen, it stops the Mermail mean stuff, as Slim mentioned before. I have 3 Vajrayana, standard. You need it. 1 Gaydir, also need that. And last one, Hyper Librarian. Since you run a Legionnaire, it's good for it to be able to do more than just pop. I'll touch a little bit on my sides actually. So there's a Electric Virus. This card is super good this format. It can steal a machine or a dragon type, so it hits the E-Dragons pretty hard, and if you manage to steal a dragon from the E-Dragons, which are level 7s, I like the side in Dragunity Corseska. You can search your word Veen, that's a 1-star tuner, so you can just synchro it off for 8, make Crimson Blader or something like that. There's also Eradicator, which I touched on a little bit when I was going through my extra deck. It'll hit spell books. It destroys all the ones on the field and in the hand. You call spells, and then that's basically all of them. I don't think they can really come back from that. There's a Imperial Iron Wall. This card, I probably would have been already playing it just to protect myself from Macrocosmos and stuff like that. But it stops E-Dragons so they can't summon themselves because they can't remove cards from play. It also hits the spell books pretty hard because a lot of their effects involve removing the spell cards from the graveyard. And of course there's Maxi. Those dragons going crazy with their spamming. It just puts a stop to all that. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please comment, rate, and subscribe. Click an ad or two if you really liked what you saw. Thanks you guys. This is Domination.